the year of Superman. Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast. I am your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue. And with me, as always, is that mighty man of bearded, the Superman of Red, Mr. James Cole. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how's it going? I was saying my beard's getting closer to Santa Claus colors these days.
Ho, ho, ho. It's going good. This is, the year of Superman is what we've, this year's dubbed. And we are here and we are ready to rock and roll, so to speak, with our 2025 change up in the way we do our show. And last week we had our first guest, Mr. Anthony Desiato from Digging from Kryptonite, and James wasn't able to join us. James was out fighting evil and protecting the innocent, which is what we expect from the Superman of Red.
It needed to be done, but I was sad that I missed. I was sad that I missed out on being able to talk with you guys about some George Reeves Superman.
Yeah, it did suck, but at least the good part is James, as I've been talking, that our $1 Patreon that we offer, and if you need to figure that out, you can click on the QR code here. It takes you to our link tree. We are doing our regular Patreon this month, but we are also dropping every month a free Superman commentary for the year of Superman. And we recorded our first one, which will be dropping at the end of the month, which is Superman in the Moment. So look forward to that. And James is on there. But what we'll do here first
Speaking
today,
of George Reeves,
yeah, that was where James got to actually talk some George, is we will be discussing the news and a few other things. So let's kick off the news. All right, here we go. Colin Farrell wins a Golden Globe for his portrayal as the Penguin. Congratulations, Mr. Farrell. You totally deserve it.
yes, congratulations. Very well deserved. Very well deserved. I mean, damn near unrecognizable in the role. Voice, prosthetics, makeup, mannerisms, bodysuit. The only thing you can see that is Colin Farrell is in the eyes. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only the close-up emotional bits. You know what I mean? Like when he's being like a jerk and he's, being like that penguin, like you can't even recognize him.
It's very tough. Because, like, if you didn't say that's Colin Farrell, I would not think about it. So, the second thing is Mr. Jason Momoa, our new Lobo, posted a picture of him holding a cigar, holding the script for Supergirl. So, we know that starts filming here the 13th. So, on Monday.
Yep, starts filming in London on the 13th. I guess David Cornsweat's been he was spotted in London recently. So
Cool.
no big surprise there, honestly, when it comes to that.
It makes sense.
I expect to see him. Yeah, absolutely. I expect to see him in Supergirl.
And I expect Supergirl
I loved
to appear.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I expect Supergirl to appear in Superman. It's post credits.
Yeah, I mean,
help lead into the next movie.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that was something that James Gunn did say is like that's not the point of and like to set up movies, but hopefully that's more of like you said, like your post credit scene where the movie isn't about setting up something, but maybe you getting that stinger does.
Yeah, I mean, or if it doesn't, it would be neat if the post credit scene teases something like with Rick Flag and Peacemaker, then something in Peacemaker teases Supergirl, so you're kind of going back and forth. But if you're building these films, having a post credit scene that teases or shows something from the next movie doesn't hurt to build the attention for that next film. So
Yeah. No, it's cool though. Jason Momoa cast as Lobo. I mean, it fits, honestly. Like I said, like it's just it can be uh he can be himself more. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't quite himself to the 10th degree or whatever, to the nth degree when he was Arthur Curry in any version or in any film until obviously the last one, which he was injected way too much of his like own personality in there. But yeah, I liked how the picture he posted was for Lobo's eyes only on the stamped on the front of the script.
yep, good, good for that. The next thing is, and I meant to drop this early, a big Christmas present that was given to me from our buddy Brian Peters was Brian watched the trailer for Superman. He wasn't going to watch the trailer, but he was like, we were sitting there talking, and it was me, his wife, Jania, and the kids, and he's like, "I'll do it. Let's do it." So we jumped up from the table and we watched the trailer 2 or 3 times in a row. Uh, but Brian did get to watch the trailer, and he was very pleased with it. So,
Well, he ought to be. It was a pretty good trailer.
it just makes me smile to see
Honestly, I feel like the Silver Age feel to the trailer is just going to like be right up his freaking alley. You know what I
that. Yeah.
mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
was he
Yep.
the youngest of us and he's the oldest man here?
Yeah. Uh. Uh. Sorry, just got a message while we're sitting here doing this live. That's why I don't record live. The next thing is the DC Showcase has its own podcast that I was really excited for. And there are a few episodes in because of Creature Commandos and everything. And I like the idea of DC Studios Showcase having its own podcast, but I'm not really a fan of the hosts. I think you need you don't always need hosts that are complete. You need a host that's like knowledgeable and then a host that's like learning, but they all seem like they don't know anything. And it just doesn't feel like you have DC fans. Like you could find a DC fan to host this type of podcast. I mean, I think back when they used to have the good old days when we had the DC All Access show, on YouTube.
Jason
That
Inman and
Tiffany Smith.
Tiffany, yeah.
Like, I mean, how great would that be to have her host, you know, this type of a podcast where she actually is a fan and has knowledge in Jason as well compared to what's going on. And it just makes me not enjoy what should be a riveting official podcast from DC Studios. I mean, the best part about the most recent episode they had was they had Sean Gunn on there doing an interview. And that's what I should be excited about is, this being an official podcast that we're going to get these type of interviews. So,
Yeah. The two hosts definitely are not longtime DC fans. The girl specifies being a little bit more of a DC fan than the gentleman on there. He does. He's just an entertainment writer. That's all he is. And then I haven't listened to the Sean Gunn episode, but I did listen to the one previously before that when they were talking about the Superman trailer. And they did have somebody on there who was a knowledgeable comic book person, but I couldn't tell you the name of that person, and I mean exactly like you said. It's not as riveting as you would think.
One that, yeah,
Like you said, like you would want it to be. Like this is supposed to be the official DC podcast, but it's not like it's just a it's basically at this point it seems like it's just going to be an interview show to talk about the new things coming.
which could be cool. I
Not
mean, which could be cool if you felt like they actually knew what they were talking about. But all right, the next quick thing I meant to bring this up before was the Christopher Reeve McFarlane has dropped. And I got thinking as I prepare my McFarlane shelves, like I have a whole shelf dedicated to my McFarlanes from like the movies, right? And then I have one that's like all the Batman from the Batman movies. And then I have a shelf that is all the Batman villains. And then I was like, okay, there's only been 3, but it's kind of technically 2 movie Superman McFarlanes. That's, we had the Henry Cavill from Zack Snyder's Justice League. Then we had the Henry Cavill blue and red, which is kind of just a repaint from Justice League.
I do have the black and the blue and red.
Yeah, so do I. And now the Christopher Reeve. And that's it. Like we don't have even any Superman villains yet that are from the movies, okay? Because they didn't do a Zod or a Feora for the Flash. So I was like, dang. So I'm hoping that this year with the new film coming that they will release start to release Superman lines of the different versions of Superman, much like they've done for Batman, because we already know that we're getting a Batman 89 and a Batman Begins McFarlane, but I need a Dean Cain. I need a Brandon Routh.
Tyler Eklund.
Yes, I definitely need him. I mean, he could have his whole line with all the different suits that he had, and of course, we know we're gonna get a David Corn sweat. That's not a problem. Can't wait to get that one.
Yeah, I'll definitely look forward to getting that one too.
I'll have
That'd be a very different one on the shelf, really. You know what I mean? Standing all next to all the ones that have like a more traditional looking suit.
but when you start putting them like they said, the movie ones together, you're like, oh, cool. But I might end up buying 2 Corn sweats. Put one in my office.
Well, you're talking about the Batman ones. I mean, they did a Dark Knight line. They did a Batman Forever line. They did a Batman and Robin line. They did Keaton from The Flash. They did an 89 Batmobile, an 89 Batwing. I mean,
they've done Batman for Justice League. They did.
And then how many?
Batman from BVS. And they've done the 2 versions of Batman from The Flash because they released that repaint one where it was more blue and gray.
Yeah.
So
and they did the armored suit from BVS. So, and they did the Nightmare from BVS. So, like, Superman is really getting screwed. Especially, and then how many of the villains did they do? I mean, we talked about the Lions. I mean,
I have a whole shelf of
they did Jim Carrey's Riddler. They did Arnold's Mr. Freeze.
Which was a Build-A-Figure, but now they're releasing it as its own figure too, but in different. So yeah, I just need more movie because those have been my big McFarlanes have been like screen appearances.
Yeah, but exactly like villains. How many Superman villains do we actually have in a McFarlane line? Like, I really can't name a whole lot.
We've gotten an Ultraman and a Bizarro.
Yeah.
And I don't have Bizarro or Ultraman because they came in packs.
They did like a Black Lantern Superman.
Yeah, I have that one, but that's still Superman versions. But like
they did the infected Superman, where he had like the Joker smile when he was infected from the Batman Who Laughs in that storyline. They did that one.
But that's still Superman himself. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
villains, they did Zod. I have Zod. I have Luthor. I have the Lex Luthor where he's like the dark side from Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have Doomsday, which I don't have. They did the two different Doomsdays, you know, then the death of Superman Doomsday. But they haven't done a whole lot. Like of so what? Doomsday, Luthor, another Luthor, Zod. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of Superman villains out there, you know. I mean,
They did a Brainiac, but it was a page puncher, which are sometimes hit or miss.
I was
And I
gonna
think
say
they
that one
did
wasn't really
Justice.
good, wasn't it? That was
No,
that ugly looking one.
the page punchers have been ugly as crap. Like the Cyborg Superman, they did was not that good either. If we're
Well,
talking
the
villains.
Cyborg Superman they did too was also the New 52. It was the Zor-El Cyborg Superman. It wasn't the Hank Henshaw version that most
Yeah,
people would want as a Cyborg Superman
right.
figure.
So it's weird. But okay, now today, as of this recording, today, Creature Commando season 1 has ended. We're gonna talk a little spoiler here. Okay, so
Yes, spoiler warnings right up front.
we're not gonna break it down like episode by episode or anything, but we're just gonna have a general conversation of Creature Commandos. You've been warned. Okay. And James, uh, what is just your overall feeling for Creature Commandos?
I mean, overall feeling, I mean, I really enjoyed the show. It has the same feeling, the same tone as the Suicide Squad, which I mean, it's a direct sequel to the Suicide Squad, so it feels like it should. Uh, the the format was pretty good. The way they gave us the stories of each of the characters. Um, you know, it does exist in a DC universe that just like exists, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like John Economos just being able to like rattle off and talk about people, who they are, what they can do. Like specifically, just seeing Clayface's mound of clay and crap on the ground and stuff, and he's like, you know, Clayface, he's a shapeshifter, and so yeah, it was I mean, for the most part, I really enjoyed the show. I've always been a fan of James Gunn and his like sensibilities, his off the wall comedy, things like that. So you know, honestly, when it comes down to it, I know we've talked about how there was a short lived period there where the end of the DCEU and everything fell into the same damn trap where everything had to be just a quippy line from everybody. Everybody had the same freaking dialogue. It was just stupid writing. I don't understand why that needed to be a thing for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a short-lived thing, but it was too long because every movie, no matter what it was, comic book, you know, that's the way it went. And I just got sick of it because everybody was written the same. It was awful. Um, but I feel like this is kind of, you know, James Gunn already existed in a world similar to that, but he's a good writer where his characters are not all written the same. They don't sound the same. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he knows how to balance that world, you know, with those types of sensibilities, whereas other people don't. When they try and dip their toe in, they just write everybody the same,
Yeah.
you know. And I feel like this show did a really good job of giving us great characterizations of these characters, and all their backstories were emotional. Like it was tragedy after tragedy.
So I would just say I enjoyed it. I I I kind of wish it was just an animated movie all edited together. I like to watch it again. I feel like there's something not missing, but I'm just something I'm kind of like about. Like I don't know. I can't put my finger on it
Hmm.
yet.
So I watched it every week as it came out, every Thursday
Yeah.
as it came out. I watched the season finale earlier today
Yeah, I got
on
up
my lunch,
early to
on
watch
my
it.
break. I watched the season finale, and then after I got home and got things situated with dinner, um, me and Bella sat down, and Jimmy was here too, and he watched about half of the series. But we binged all 7 episodes,
I
all the
almost
way through.
I do wish it was one more episode
I do,
because I
and
feel
it's
like
a good thing it's a good thing to say that we want more.
because I feel like I would have liked the formula that it worked with of each episode giving us a little bit of the give glimpses of the backstory of every character worked, but I would have liked that. And then the eighth episode open with like a flashback of Flag with his son at some point in their time, like parting ways. And then the last episode was just all like in time action kind of thing. And with no other flashbacks. Like we've told all the story flashbacks. Now we're just finishing up with our big, final action set piece. Because this episode, the season finale was a lot of heart. It was Nina's backstory. Um, and then there really wasn't a huge like big battle type thing. It kind of ended softly. Um,
Which
and
honestly, I feel, you talk about that. I feel like the buildup of the series, the buildup throughout all the episodes, the stories, the way they were told, the tragedy after tragedy of these characters, you know, I feel like there's been this like emotional high this whole time,
mm,
you know, whether it's like funny and laughing and or like you're heartbreaking, so that when we come to the end and it's just one bullet to
I
end the
mean,
series like that, I was like, damn. Like I felt good. I felt good, honestly, coming out of the end of it with like we all expect this big knockdown battle every time we see a superhero property. It's always got to end on this big climactic battle. And the way that this show ended for the first season, I was like, damn, that was good. A lot of heart, and it didn't need to be that big battle at the end.
I yes and no, because I feel like in some ways we're just kind of like we fizzled out in a way of like when the show's called Creature Commandos. Like,
Right. Well, I felt when they started it and everything, they built it up to be like Cersei was going to be your big villain, you
yeah,
know? And that's a powerful enemy to have in the DC universe. And so for say to be out after what, episode 3 or 4, you don't even see her again.
hmm.
I was kind of surprised at that, but but it was actually really interesting. It kept me the whole time.
What I think is interesting is we were complaining about great. We're starting the new universe with the world's going to burn in the future, and they just put a stop to that. Like done. Um,
Yeah.
so
So
let's
instead of developing a whole story over this, you know what I mean? Like a whole narrative over preventing this huge thing from happening, that was epic and grand in scale. They're like, we're going to give you a small glimpse, and then that's it. We ended it. We
Yep.
did it. We finished. We ended the end of the. We stopped World War III, and it was just this little thing, and it's not even your heroes.
So the show is definitely, like we said, a sequel. Basically, it's like the sequel, sidequel to natural progression of the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Um, Characters, we got Rick Flag Sr., which I feel like we'll get more development as we go into Superman and moving on. Weasel. Weasel was all right. It kind of retroactively makes the Suicide Squad a little bit more interesting with Weasel. Um, who is your favorite character?
My favorite character. Oof. So that's it's kind of tough to narrow it down to exactly just one. Is this okay? Is she being too loud?
Oh, what's going on with my favorite Allura?
She ripped a book and she was told she can't do that, and so now she's upset. Yeah, but
It's
I just
throwing
want to
fits.
make sure she's not too loud. Uh, I mean, really, honestly, it's hard to narrow it down because I like them all for different reasons in different areas. But I would have to say my two favorite characters in the show uh would be GI Robot and Nina.
Okay. My favorite character would be the Bride.
And she is extremely intriguing.
Because I have the love for the classic monsters and everything.
Right.
I kind of felt disappointed by Eric Frankenstein.
That was not a characterization I was expecting. He is a piece of crap.
Yeah, like he's definitely been James Gunnified.
Well, I
He's
mean, yeah, James Gunnified, but I mean, I guess if you think about it, like how normal is somebody who is made of dead parts gonna be when reanimated?
but I mean, like, I was reading some of the Agents of Shade because that's really where he's been prominent and
That
stuff in the
is
comics.
primary. Yeah, that is the primary spot for Frankenstein in the DC universe.
Uh, so, but yeah, I didn't like the way he killed the old woman that helped him. Like, and he just come. I don't know. I did not really. I was hoping to like him the most. Um, so
Yeah, I would say that I was probably pretty blindsided by that characterization of Frankenstein, though.
I think
Honestly,
that's why they gave him more of the Eric Frankenstein because I'm looking here. I don't think he has the name of Eric in the comics. He's just Frankenstein. Um,
yeah.
so
What was interesting though was seeing Mary Shelley on the
yeah,
bookshelf.
yeah, that
It
was
wasn't
cool.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein though.
No, but it
It
was
was not Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but it was a Mary Shelley book.
um so yeah,
And
it
I don't
was
even know if it was a real Mary Shelley book. It was just I love that that at least they plugged the author's name in there, seeing as that is like pretty much damn near the creator of Frankenstein.
so it was his characterization kind of let me down some. I kind of wanted, more, but GI Robot was good, and of course he gets fixed and comes back bigger and more powerful looking. Um,
Yeah, he's like
at
a
the
giant back at the end.
uh, Doctor Phosphorus by what do you call it? By Alan Tudyk was great. Kind of what I expected. Um, but the Nina Mazursky, um, that's the saddest part is she's the innocent heart of the team, and she's the one that's dies. Like
Yeah,
she's the and then we get a post credit scene.
her death broke my heart.
You know, we see everything that she went through. Um, and what do you call it? Like, I just was, I don't know, like, the post credit scene was just Eric Frankenstein still alive, basically, after the bride shot him and took him out at the beginning of the episode. He didn't even get to
Well,
say, "Don't kill the princess" or anything. Like, just boom, boom, boom. He was done.
yeah,
And
he
then,
said Rick Flag, and then she just pow kept shooting him. She said, "Take it to hell," and shot him in the head. Called him a
y-
stalker.
yeah. And so the post credit scene was he uh made it, like, he's still alive, so great. But yeah, I thought that maybe we would get something
Yeah.
with
The post
Nina.
credit
And
scene, besides showing that Frankenstein was still alive, was terrible.
yes, it was. It was
So, but
disappointing.
in my opinion, that is like that's one of those things that's 100% James Gunn, and it's that's one of those things that somebody might find hilarious, and others are just going to be like, "That was terrible." That's like ending the Flash with his damn tooth falling out
Yeah.
on that
You know,
shot.
um and but like Nina's death was hard because that's what really pushes the bride over. And then we see the bride's now, I guess, the leader of the Creature Commandos. Flags in the hospital, and we get some new commandos, which would be the vampire Nosfer. It's not Nosferatu, but it's something close to that. And then the Pharaoh one, the mummy one. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I guess I just wanted to like it more. Like, like I wanted to be more about the creatures. But the thing was, for the most part, the bride was a creature, Weasel's a creature, Phosphorus was a human turned into what he was. Nina was a human turned into what she was, and um,
Well, the thing that I don't get specifically like for Weasel is what you can find online because because I believe he's a character basically created for the movies and the show and everything now
this version,
is
yeah,
well it and so I don't really know that much about the character, any version of the character, but I guess in the Suicide Squad, in like a quick, I don't know, glimpse of the dossier or something, if you freeze frame it, you can get some information on him. So like he has a name and he used to be a human, but they don't know how he became this weasel creature. Um, so if that's the case, and he's got this lawyer and stuff, like, is he literally just being held basically illegally? You know what I mean?
I
Being
think that's
held
what the
illegally,
lawyers kind of.
not yeah, he doesn't have, like, they know his name, they knew who he used to be. She doesn't know his name, his lawyer doesn't know his name. How can she help him if they're keeping his identity and everything under wraps? Like, in my opinion, that's just like one of those other things where Amanda Waller is just a piece of crap.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was interesting. I didn't hate it. I liked it. I just really wanted to like it more,
Right.
and I think
I
that's
think Yeah, I think because I had kind of a pretty low expectation of it to begin with. Wasn't sure like what to expect, or um I mean, yeah, I would have preferred like more of the monsters, more of the creatures. I feel like the format, giving the history of each one for the episodes 2 through 7, really.
Yeah,
Like I thought that was pretty cool. I guess it just exceeded my low expectations. Not sure even what to expect from the show, so
yeah,
I feel like it was pretty good, But but if you're not a fan of James Gunn, or you're not a fan of the Suicide Squad, you might not like it.
yeah. I mean that's fair. And, oh yeah, and King Shark's now part of the Creature Commandos.
Oh yeah, Nanawe was there at the end. Yeah. And I wanted to I watched it the second time. I didn't get a chance to check on it and find out if they're still having Sly Stallone do the voice.
No, it's
Didn't
Diedrich
quite
Bader.
sound like him.
It's Diedrich
Oh, is
Bader.
oh really?
Yeah.
That's
So,
disappointing though. Just
mm.
just just because, you're gonna have him do the voice, and then I mean he's basically the character from the Suicide Squad. Um
But maybe
and now
Stallone
he's got
get
a different voice actor. Like,
yeah, but it's you're dealing with Stallone, I don't think he'll want to do it like it's so.
I don't know,
But,
I mean, he's worked with Gunn a couple of times now, and like I said, the Nanawe is just a voice character in the Suicide Squad. I really doubt that
I mean,
uh,
they could have
Sly
just pulled.
Stallone did any mocap for him.
Oh, he did it. It was Economos.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They could have just pulled the dialogue from the movie, and when he's sitting there like, huh, hand, they could have just done that again. Um, but now it's comic time, and we are kicking off this month with our. We are going back to the year before the 2000s,
19
1999,
1999, partying like it's
and
1999.
we will be starting here. This is kind of a turning point where Jeff Loeb and Joe Kelly began writing Action and Superman, along with the other two books that are written by different creative teams. Um, this point in time, it's kind of a transition because we're coming out of the Triangle era and starting the 2000s, but we still have the triangles, but they don't quite work like they used to. Um, we were talking about that a minute ago.
Yeah, right before we
Because
got on.
as you can tell, this is when it starts, and the cover art is all made to be together. It has a similar feel, look, design, but the stories do not flow. Now, over on Electric Mullet that I've been doing with Phil Parrish, we started with John Byrne's Man of Steel and are reading straight, and we're in the 90s, and we're about to start into the Triangle era. And when James and I were trying to plot out this year, I got talking about a part in comics where we really haven't read, him and I, as much. Towards like around Superman, like 2006 era, 2007 is kind of where I started getting back into reading comics. Because there was a comic shop right by the school where I was at, so it was very accessible to start really getting back into them. We're coming out of the latter part of the 90s where we had the Electric Superman and all that. So we kind of chose this time frame to start reading. So we're a little bit farther than where we are with Electric Mullet, but we're in an era that him and I have not really read that much of to really get to explore this time period of Superman comics. So, and um, I'm excited, to venture into this. And yeah,
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to venture into it. It's like you said, it's an era that I haven't really gotten to read. Of course, around the death of Superman, the death and return of Superman, read some of that. Of course, growing up in the '90s, it was just kind of like whatever books you could kind of find, things like that. You just get random issues, and even at that time, it was kind of, I was young and I was just reading a bunch of different books. You know what I mean? Didn't matter if it was Marvel or DC. Um, and then when I started getting back into reading, it was just before the New 52 had begun, and I had started reading. And at that time, I was reading, like, I started picking up like the Superman Batman books of the 2000s. And I picked up some of those trades, and then the New 52 came around, and so had read Flashpoint and started in on the New 52. And that's kind of that, honestly, that's kind of where, like, more of the consistency of going from beginning to end, or beginning and continuously reading through, had really begun. And so since then, it's just been like dipping back to story arcs, or of course, reading Elseworlds books, things like that. So yeah, this era is not something that I've read a whole lot of. And this isn't too long. This isn't too long after Superman and Lois got married,
No, it's not. Um, and
or
we're
Clark and
gonna.
Lois, rather.
Oh, hold on. I'm looking for. So where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Hold on. Yeah, we're about maybe 151 is where we start. And I'm looking at. We read up until 135 as the last of the Superman Red, Superman Blue, which then Superman goes back to being his normal self. So in 136. So, and then, so that's under 20 issues. So 151 and 136, about a year from where we had read to where we're starting at. So, but yeah, we're starting here based, like I said, because of just it's a good starting point, and with the creative team at the end of the year and everything. So Superman number 151 was written by Jeff Loeb. You know that guy. And the description is: the Daily Planet returns as a new era of the Man of Steel begins. Faster than a speeding bullet, Superman for All Seasons writer Jeff Loeb joins artists Mike McConaughey and Mario Alquisa for back-to-backs issues that reveal the shocking reason Lex Luthor has given the planet back to Perry White, plus what villain's son is heading to Earth for a collision with the Man of Steel. So there we go. All right. This issue, James, starts off with Superman returning the top of the Daily Planet, and all the staff is coming back because Lex sold the planet back to Perry White. And it feels kind of a catch you up issue, as we have Lois narrating through the issue about uh, what's going on, and headlines and the history and the wedding that she had. And it's a nice kind of welcome back Superman issue that ends with the arrival of Mongol's son, also known as Mongol, and a nice little reveal by Lois Lane. What'd you think?
Yeah, that it was a pretty good book. The twist at the end, for sure, for sure. I was like, oh, okay. Um,
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll reveal it. Don't worry.
I was to say, for
Every-
some reason, I feel like I've seen that before. But
Everybody's like, "Tell us, James. Tell us."
yeah. Well, I'll tell you in a second. Um, it was a good story. Like you said, kind of catching up on a little bit of things. I it was just not a whole lot happens, honestly. I mean, they do talk about how they're opening the Daily Planet back up, how they got it back from Lex Luthor. Uh, Clark flies home to Smallville to see his parents and talk to them face to face, and then we get the son of Mongol crashing into Metropolis. I mean, not a lot happens in this issue,
It's
really.
just
Like,
it's just kind of like I said, it's like a welcome back,
uh,
setting you up, building enough of the
yeah,
background so that we can move forward.
and
Um,
that's what it feels like. Um,
like it's like
Not
comfort
bad,
food.
but not like a great like standout issue of anything for any reason in particular.
Now, James, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone about that twist at the end?
So in the end, Lex Luthor is talking about um, uh, why he sold the planet back, and he had a stipend, um, and it's kill any story of his choosing at any time. Um, and he made this deal with Lois to kill any story he wants at any time for him to sell the Daily Planet back. I have a feeling she's going to regret that.
Well, the part of the big setup is she's talking about Clark and his secrets and having to keep secrets and everything. And then um
Yeah, she says, for
and
years
now
I worked.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, she says, for years I worked side by side with a man, never knowing he withheld a secret from me. It wasn't a terrible secret, but a secret nonetheless. And then we skip forward a little bit. We fell in love, and before we got married, he revealed his secret to me because that's what married couples do. He would say they don't keep secrets from each other. And then we get the deal, and it's revealed to be Lois Lane, and Perry can never know. Jimmy can never know. Superman can never know. And Clark can never know. Now I'll be the one who has a secret, a terrible, awful secret forever.
And what was that triangle number? Because we're gonna talk about this.
I am fairly certain this one is 46.
Okay, so the next one, okay, is Triangle 47, which is the Adventures of Superman 573. Okay, written by here we go. I'll tell you here in a second. Ready? So we got Jeff Loeb, right? Big time Jeff Loeb. A new era continues with a look at Superman through the eyes of ordinary people. Flashbacks to Smallville and young Clark Kent's first attempt to leap tall buildings. Contrast with modern adventures where Clark, not Superman, must come to the aid of a lone man taking a stand against Luthor. Plus, a brief appearance by Luthor's new bodyguard, Mercy, based on the character from the new Batman Superman adventures and her partner, Hope. Written by Mark Millar. That guy who's pretty much Top Cow Comics, the legendary Mark Millar. So, not just a regular name here in comics, but
Yes, sir. Stuart Immonen is the plotter, and Mark Millar wrote the dialogue.
so what did you think of this one?
I felt like this one is a very in my opinion, I feel like this is a very strong like Superman story at its core, at the heart of the character. He's helping to prevent a man, Mr. Oditz, who owns a piece of land that used to be some sort of pig farm in Metropolis. Well, it wasn't a pig farm when he owned it. Like his grandparent, like his grandfather or whatever he mentioned, um, had raised pigs there. But so it used to be this pig farm, but it's his land. It's been in his family for a long time. Um, and Lex Luthor is trying to take it. He has he has an expropriation order, basically trying to evict this man by 6 p.m. Friday to bulldoze his land, because this is where he's building the new LexCorp Tower or Luther Corp Tower, whichever one it is at this time.
Yeah, it gets confusing.
We do get Mercy, um, Mercy and Hope, and he calls them my Amazon bodyguards. So
Yeah, it is interesting because this is our introduction to Mercy in the comics. This is her coming over from TV to the comics.
So Clark is upset about this whole thing. This isn't a villain or a fight he can win by just punching something.
I like this story. I like the flashbacks to Smallville about how his parents, were uncomfortable with him using his powers, but he stopped the factory from burning during a storm. He was running and he thought, like, I'm going to grab this electrical wire and this might be my end. This is what I'm here for. It was only then that I realized how far I had to be from home, like how true his destiny was.
So actually when I read through this, I was like, this had to be something, this time had to be something that the writers of Man of Steel had read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Pa disapproved of me using my powers back then. He denies it now, but I knew it disturbed him to even talk about it. There was a strange tension in the farmhouse. Yeah, it's just, and he says, and for a while we didn't even speak about it. It's something we saw a lot from John Snyder in Smallville was the protection angle as a father, and it's the thing that still pisses me off to this day, 11 years later, when people bitch about Kevin Costner and his interaction with young Clark on the back of the truck. I'm like, if you watch that, like, even though he says maybe, you can see it. You can see it on Kevin Costner's face that he is not convinced in his own words that what he is saying is right. All he is saying is he is saying that to protect his son and his son's secret.
That's why
That
he
is
says
it.
That's why he says I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, and people still take that as gospel. John Kent would never say that. He's the reason why. Blah 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 blah. Like,
people also say that Jonathan Kent is supposed to die because that's how he happened in the comics, which is not true. It was Superman the movie that killed off Pa, that made everyone think that Pa Kent had to die.
He would never say that. Like, in my opinion, as a father to a young child with abilities like that, and that he's an alien even before he does, yes, you would.
You don't know what you're saying.
He would.
You don't know what to think other than I need to protect my child. That's all you're really thinking. But
even then, in that movie, he instilled still what is right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whoever you become will change the world. He still instilled in him what was right in that movie. I fully saw that on screen. So people are full of crap. It's just to hate Snyder.
Our next book is Triangle 48, which is Superman, the Man of Steel, number 95. A new era begins with a science fiction focus on the strange visitor from another planet. Now, if you notice, every one of these books is titled after a saying that we hear along with Superman. It remains in the remains of the Fortress of Solitude. There's something very wrong and very deadly. When Superman and Lois go to investigate, and they find themselves face to face with bizarre creatures from the early days of Krypton. Okay, so this book was neat, but I had no idea what was going on because I forgot the fortress at some point. This had been destroyed. This was written by Mark Schultz. and we have the a super robot standing over the fortress remains, and a hands reach up and attack it. But then we have Clark, Jimmy, and Lois inside their apartment, and what goes off beeping is a Kellex that Clark convinces Jimmy that it's a was kind of a joke gift. It was a Superman collectible radio alarm clock that was a Kellex head.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was hilarious.
Um, and then Superman takes Lois to the fortress, and basically these creatures that looked like a mixture between a xenomorph and Doomsday as a dog come out, and Clark talks about Krypton, his world, but these are prehistoric Krypton beings, and the he's fighting them. The robot shows back up, and he says at the very end he gets everything under control, sending them back. He says it's about survival, Lois, the survival of the evil, intolerant spirit of Krypton or the survival of Earth. They cannot coexist. The fortress must never be resurrected, Lois. All traces must be eradicated. Once again, we got the eradicator thrown around. And then we have a boardroom with a giant early integrated armor and weaponry. And I'm going to try to pronounce that word. In nope. Flexible land, air, and sea mobility, non-lethal suits. Welcome, to Metropolis, John Henry Irons. So we're reintroducing steel at the end of this. So what did you think of this book?
It was interesting. They were talking about Dominus and how he destroyed, or there was some sort of singularity. There was a destruction of the fortress. It's something that I haven't read, so I kind of just like I'm in it where we're at.
Yep.
The creatures that do come out, he does say that they come from like the birthing matrix, the Eradicator, somehow trying to bring Krypton back on Earth. They do remind me of the ancient creatures on Krypton from Hunter Prey.
I thought so.
The history of Doomsday. So that's what they reminded me of at the time, and I figure, I mean, if you're going to talk about ancient creatures on Krypton, and you're going to you're going to show them, I mean, you got to reference one of the only books that might have them in it. But yeah, they're the creatures that like killed Doomsday over and over and over again until he eradicated all of them. So, yeah. I mean, yeah, it was kind of cool. I like the interaction between Lois and Clark. How she convinces him. She says, besides, I'm your wife, and by law, that makes the fortress 50% mine. I've got a right to assess our property damage too. He says, Lois, I'm just a naive country boy. I never thought you'd use your marital status to put me at a disadvantage.
Oh, she knows what's up.
Yeah.
But
so it's kind of one of those things. I mean, Superman is super sci-fi. It's science fiction. So sometimes the super science doesn't. Sometimes you have to read it, the what they say, like over and over and over again, just to kind of feel like you put the pieces together.
Yep. And there's a reason for all this, and we'll talk about it here in a moment. All right. Our last book for today is Action Comics 760, Triangle 49, The Never-Ending Battle, which is sometimes titled Superman in Action Comics. The Never-Ending Battle continues a new villainess in Kandora which was introduced in Secret Origins of Supervillains AD page Giant #1, begins auctioning pieces of kryptonite to the highest bidder, attracting lots of interested parties, including Ra's al Ghul, Vandal Savage, Riddler, and more. This was written by Joe Kelly with pencils by German Garcia. Okay, so this one is hilarious because it starts with Dr. Spectro with kryptonite that doesn't affect Superman. And then shows up Clock King with kryptonite. We get Lois on the roof talking with Perry, and she says something because Clark is now the foreign correspondent for the Daily Planet, and he's supposed to
Yeah.
be
One of the
away.
few points that has actually crossed over
Yep,
from book to book
and we're gonna get
in
there.
all of 4 of these issues.
We're gonna get there.
Mhm.
He talks about the Rock and the kryptonite and everything, and how it was different when he fought Metallo, and now he's in Japan, where he's supposed to be at a conference when all of a sudden another villain attacks, and I'm not going to try the Stone Emperor. He has kryptonite that doesn't work again, and this is where we meet La Encandora. And can we just say first, this is a 90s villain. You could not get away with this now. This is thirst all over it. I was reading this, and Jania looks over. She's like, "What are you reading?" I'm like, "Superman." She's like, "Uh-huh." And what's Superman doing? I'm like, trying not to be attacked by this villainess. But we see the
Trying
Riddler.
not to stare at her very revealing costume.
Good word usage, James. We get a guest appearance by the Teen Titans, or as they're in this, they're Young Justice because it's Impulse, Superboy. I'm gonna guess that's Tim Drake, Robin, and we get Ra's al Ghul and Talia. But then eventually, Superman figures it out as her mist, is how she's getting around. She's basically tricking people into selling kryptonite that's not really kryptonite. And he tricks her, and then she kisses him. And yeah, I felt like she sexually assaulted Superman there at the end. But how did you feel, James?
That's
Is this one of those books where you want to be Superman's stand-in? Like, you're like, I'll stand in for Superman here.
yes, sir.
I'm James Cole, and I approve this message.
Yeah, I mean, when she jumps in and kisses him like that, it reminded me of when Lucy kisses Clark in the 10th season of Smallville, and she's like, and Lois is like, you can dodge bullets, but you can't, you can't fend off a young woman. I know that's not exactly the quote, but
Yep.
it's like Superman is so fast, but you can't see somebody ambushing you with a kiss.
He's not perfect.
Yeah, right.
He's trying.
I mean, it's interesting to see. It's always fun when you get the wider DC universe being pulled into one book. It's great to have the characters have their own story, and you'll see other members of the DC universe at different times, but to really have so many pulled into one book at one time, and not really be like just like overcrowded and like no reason for them to be there. I mean, there is a reason with the false kryptonite and all that type of stuff. So
It was a fun read. It was different. Now, back to what James and I were pointing out. This is the end of the Triangle era. And I don't know how much longer we have where we'll have the triangles. But in the Triangle era, you had multiple titles, but each story connected as one massive story. it would be very difficult to just read a title straight. You would need the other titles. And if you notice, out of each synopsis, it was a new era begins, and each book is tweaked a little bit to focus on a different aspect of the character. None of these connected. None of this felt like it was a continuation other than the correspondent part from Clark. You know, if I'm reading this in triangle order, it makes less sense than if I just read the book straight. And like I said, we'll see how long the triangles last. I'm curious, you know.
Um,
I'm looking at something right now.
yeah, I'm actually scrolling through myself here.
Because I think this is the end. Yeah, this is the end. Because
Yeah.
because the next Superman title, 152, starts with Triangle 1. And this is part of why I picked this era, because as we go on, we'll see where the books start to reconnect again. So the Superman 152 is 1, the Adventures of Superman is 574 is 2, and Superman the Man of Steel is 3, and so forth. With Action doesn't have a triangle number on it. It's just Action. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm looking at it, and yeah, Superman in Action 761 doesn't appear to have a triangle on the cover.
Yep. So it'll be a fun time for us as we go through things.
I did like how the cover is all connected, and how they did have all the different sayings: faster than a speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings,
Never any battle, strange visitor from another planet,
yeah,
more powerful than a locomotive. That's James's.
every time I see that or hear that, I can it always takes me back to the Fleischer cartoons when I was little,
But that is our episode for this week. Every week we'll be reviewing news and current topics, and then we will dive into a different planned. We will be returning to the Kelly era of books next month. Next week we'll be doing a special. We will be reading the wedding issue of Superman. I've never read it that I can think of. I own it, but I haven't read it, and I figure after ending Superman and Lois, it'd be kind of a nice little thing to kind of to go off on. So,
yeah,
and we will have a special guest reviewer in next week's episode. The first Jania Reads review. So get ready for that.
Ooh, that'll be interesting to hear.
Mm-hmm. And remember,
look up in the sky!
Thank you for checking out the Krypton Report. Please click our link tree in the show notes to follow us on your favorite social media platform. We have a $1 Patreon, just $1 a month to keep us going. And in return, you get exclusive shows and specials. If you want to join us on an episode, send us an email or a message.